What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So now with the Switch 2 out and people seeing what it's capable of with things like Cyberpunk 2077, of course, there's a lot of curiosity as to what other third-party games would make the jump to Nintendo's platform. Well, now one is currently floating around out there based on a recent report, and it's particularly interesting, not necessarily because of the game and if it can run on the Switch 2, but actually the publisher behind it. We're going to go over that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about Sony and a major report that's come in with the potential for them to be looking to make a big-time acquisition. And we have Xbox Game Pass, of course, rolling along since that Xbox showcase, and I wanted to go over some of the stuff that they've put out here to close out June and then start, of course, the month of July. So if you guys enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton, and if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below, and of course, members for the channel do get Newswave early. If you would like to learn more about that, click the join button or the link in the description down below, and we're going to start today with some free games, specifically SEGA classic titles that are kind of in this weird in-between period with SEGA Forever, which was this application that SEGA had on mobile phones. And what would happen is you would get the games that have like in-game advertisements, or you could purchase a one-time token that then gets rid of all of the ads, and it didn't really seem to work out for them. So they're delisting all of the games. The only thing is now, though, that they've removed ad support, but left the games just up. So they're free to grab right now on iOS and Android, and it seems like, according to SEGA, they'll remain playable offline. So let's go down the list of the games you could just go claim right now. Like, I tried this with a couple. So, for example, you can see this list, and this was compiled over on VGC. Crazy Taxi Classic, Golden Axe Classics, Shining Force Classic, Sonic CD Classic, Sonic the Hedgehog 4 Episode 2, Streets of Rage Classic, Streets of Rage 2 Classic, Super Monkey Ball Sakura, and Virtua Tennis Challenge. I did claim Crazy Taxi Classic and Shining Force Classics just very quickly to check, and yeah, no issues there. They both started up just fine, no ads or anything in it, and because they're very small files, I mean, they download very, very quickly. So I'm just pointing this out because they're free. It's like you might as well claim them and add them to your account on your phone, just in case you have a few minutes, you're kind of bored, and you're like, oh yeah, I do have Crazy Taxi on my phone, which, by the way, not a bad conversion, actually. So just going to go ahead and throw that out there. I'll leave a link down below if you want to check them out through VGC, as they link to all the specific store pages. Also, we've been occasionally following along with the GOG preservation program, where they'll just kind of add in older retro games for PC that have been set up to be compatible with things like Windows 10 and Windows 11, just more modern setups that we have. And the latest one, I saw it, I said, that's a pretty good deal, and it's awesome to see. So just real quick, you can see this posted up. This is over on the GOG website. It's Devil May Cry HD Collection and 4 Special Edition. Now it's 67% off at $14.84. So it's Devil May Cry 1, 2, 3, and 4 at $14, and they're all set up again to work on Windows 10, Windows 11, and from what I saw, they even added cloud save support to it, and the system requirements aren't bad or anything. So I again, just wanted to point it out because it's really cool to see what they're doing with this preservation program, just setting up a lot of these older titles to be compatible with newer OSs, and again, just builds, drivers, the whole thing. Just makes it much more easy to revisit some of these classic titles that really look at a very good prices. So again, I'll leave that link down below, but also check out some of the GOG preservation stuff because they have been rolling along and dropping a whole bunch of these classic games. Oh, and last night we did have a Capcom Spotlight that was announced. This over on the website here. It will be airing Thursday, June 26th, 3 p.m. Pacific. That'd be 6 p.m. Eastern Time, and they have the games they'll be focusing in on here, which includes Monster Hunter Wilds, Resident Evil Requiem, Pragmata, and Street Fighter Years 1 and 2, well, for Street Fighter 6, Years 1 and 2 Fighters Edition. All right, so they say that's going to go for approximately 40 minutes, and that's about it. So from what we've seen here with these games, I don't think there's gonna be no new game announcements, but updates on ones we have, with Resident Evil being obviously a big one. We've heard a lot of stuff around the idea of them really trying to go big with this game when it comes to the gameplay, trying to shake things up, and that and Pragmata for me are the two that I'm most curious about because, well, they're not out yet. The other two are, and obviously they'd be doing more updates around roadmaps and other releases for Monster Hunter and Street Fighter. But again, something to look forward to next week for Capcom. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with a new report that's pointing to Stellar Blade getting ported to the Switch 2. And there's a lot going on here because, well, Sony publishes Stellar Blade. They published it on the PS5, and they also published it on PC. So we can see this is posted up. This is from VGC, and they're citing Play Forum. They translated it from Korean here for this excerpt, saying, the popular action game is currently in development for Nintendo's new console. This comes as developer Shift Up gifted hundreds of Nintendo Switch 2 systems to its employees. Developer Shift Up told Play Forum that nothing is confirmed regarding the development of a Switch 2 version, but that it was reviewing various possibilities internally. Now, if you look through the Play Forum report, it seems like they're citing the fact that Shift Up has just like Switch 2 dev kits and they're kind of working on stuff to move over to it. You go, okay, well, what's the main thing they would want to move over? Well, based on the fact that they have a big push right now for just expanding Stellar Blade as a franchise, as an intellectual property, that would be the one that would be most likely, if, of course, they can make it happen, because there are a lot of questions around, not necessarily if it can run, because, well, spoiler, it's on Steam Deck, and it actually runs pretty well there. It does have to lower it to like a resolution of 800p or less at times, and use things like FSR, but it's completely possible to run at 60 frames per second, which tells me that on the Switch 2, you would probably see a better resolution and frame rate in general, obviously when it's docked, but then just being able to target specific hardware like the Switch 2 and utilize some of the NVIDIA specifications and things that they have there with their features, I think you just get a better experience. But the question, of course, comes back to, how would this work with Sony? Because people have been going back and forth around who owns Stellar Blade. Well, Shift Up owns the Stellar Blade IP. Sony, though, is the publisher. They own the publishing rights for the game from what we've seen on the PS5 and on the PC. However, we have seen a similar situation with Death Stranding, where Sony published that game, but then afterwards we saw it move to Xbox, and when we had like 505 Games pick up publishing for that. So it really comes down to the relationship between the developing studio, being Shift Up, and Sony. Sony may not see Stellar Blade as a game that has to be attached at the hip to PlayStation, and in fact would benefit from going to the Switch 2 and going to the PC, because they can grow out this intellectual property in this franchise for when the inevitable sequel happens that's already been discussed by Shift Up with investors, and oh yeah, it's on the PlayStation 5 first. So it's just something that Sony, I'm sure, is kind of weighing right now and is like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Let's pick up publishing for the next game, the sequel. And yeah, if they want to publish it and do it, move it over to the Switch 2, great. It'll just work to build up this franchise for us to really help sell PS5s, but then also eventually PlayStation 6 systems. As for them gifting the developers, the studio at Shift Up Switch 2 systems, well, there's an entire picture. You can see this posted up. And this is over on the X account for Shift Up World, where you can see today Shift Up gifted all employees a Switch 2 to celebrate Stellar Blade surpassing 3 million sales. Company has previously given PS5s in 2021 and PS5 Pros in 2025. So they have consistently just been giving out for their developers, the studio, systems as they've gone along, as they've come out. Now, it's not like they just give them a system. For example, I believe the PS5 Pro, there was also a bonus that was mentioned of like $3,000 some odd on top of that. And when you see sales like this for Stellar Blade, which are actually pretty good, really good on PC, it happened very quickly where they sold more than 1 million copies. You do the math in the background, you're like, okay, that's not costing them a ton of the money that they brought in, but it's a nice way to, of course, boost morale. And then on top of that, again, I'm sure there's bonuses there. Now, Play Forum did mention, oh, this might be a way to drive interest by developers to own a Switch 2. And if they like it, well, then maybe they want to develop for it, move stuff over to it. I don't know if that's necessarily 100% true, but I mean, it wouldn't hurt necessarily for them to own the system that they potentially moving Stellar Blade to, so that, you know, they can be a bit more familiar with what the system can do and other aspects there. But interesting, something to definitely keep an eye on here to see if maybe a year or two from now, Stellar Blade just pops up in a random Nintendo Direct. Next up, let's talk about Sony and a report that is pointing towards them making a massive acquisition. That's the best way I can put it. This would be big time for Sony if they make it happen. So let's take a look. This is, we can see posted up. Now, there are a couple of different articles and reports going around about this. A lot of them point to SEScoops.com, but then we'll also sort of cite their own sources that are familiar with it. So it's this was spreading rapidly online. So let's start here. WBD, Warner Bros. Discovery, announced on June 9th it was splitting the company, with most of the company's $37 billion in debt attached to the WBD Global Networks, which include its vast number of cable channels, including CNN, TNT, and TBS. Sources have told SE Scoops that Sony is considering a purchase of the newly announced WBD Streaming and Studios company, which is expected to complete its separation from WBD Global Networks by mid-2026. Sony is interested in acquiring WBD's HBO Max streaming service, IPs, and its gaming assets, which over on DualShockers, they compiled a list here of essentially the different studios and I guess IPs that they are known for here, they're attached to. Which Avalanche Software and Hogwarts Legacy, NetherRealm Studios, of course, we know with like Mortal Kombat, Rocksteady Studios, TT Games, WB Games Montreal, and WB Games Boston. Now, I will say this, from Sony's angle as being an entertainment company they're trying to build out, and we've seen it a lot with anime and just streaming services, it is a major factor for them. So from that angle, trying to acquire some of these franchise and IP rights along with HBO Max kind of makes sense for them in the entertainment field. For gaming, though, I don't know if they necessarily want to take on all these developers, all these studios. Although from what we've seen with WB, they're like unsure about WB Games necessarily, so maybe they're thinking, oh, we can offload a lot of this stuff and maybe not offload all these IPs. So I feel like there's going to be, if this is the thing, Sony and WB probably go back and forth quite a bit at the negotiation table trying to figure out who takes what. But I will say, this split, where you see that much debt kind of go to one side and the other side seems kind of clear for the most part, does feel like they're kind of setting this up for an acquisition to someone. And it doesn't necessarily have to be Sony. There are many big companies out there that maybe want to come in and like have a turnkey like streaming entertainment service. There could be Apple. I saw that floated. I mean, Microsoft, I guess, if they wanted to do that. Or you could see Amazon or others. So, like, there's a lot of stuff that could happen here. And again, looking at it, it does kind of feel like it's being pushed to the side as sort of a bargaining chip. So, something to keep an eye on there. But mid-2026, guys, it's still off in the distance by quite a bit. Probably a year or more. But something to keep in mind as we go forward, the potential for Sony to maybe pick up a good chunk of WB with their gaming division and IPs. Next up, let's talk about Xbox Game Pass games to close out June and then start up July. We can see this posted. This is over on news.xbox.com. Available now on Xbox Game Pass, we have FBC Firebreak, Cloud PC and Xbox Series X and S. I tried this a bit. It's a very weird game. It's kind of like this cooperative shooter or first-person shooter style game. It's in that Control universe, so it's going to be weird. But I don't know, it feels like it's not quite done yet, I guess, is my best description for it. I could see it being fun if you have two friends that you're just going to go through what's at times a very silly game. One level, you're clearing out Post-it notes, for example. But I don't know if I can necessarily recommend it, unless try it on Game Pass like I did. There you go, you download it and see what you think. We have Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time. That's console and PC. Lost in Random, The Eternal Die. That is a day one release, Cloud, PC, and Xbox Series X and S. Moving up, we have June 18th, this came out yesterday, Star Trucker, Xbox Series X and S. Wild Frost, that's on console. June 19th, today. Okay. I was looking forward to this rematch, Cloud, PC, and Xbox Series X and S. It's a day one release, and I had a lot of fun with this in the beta. I'm going to be playing this quite a bit online for multiplayer. It's a lot of fun. It's like a soccer game where you can do 3-on-3, 4-on-4, or 5-on-5, and unlike Mario Strikers, you can have an entire team of 5 people even on either end. So 10 people playing, and it's all individual players and stuff. So it's quite far ahead, we'll say, of what I experienced from Mario Strikers with this online play, but it was a lot of fun. Not quite like arcade level to where you're jumping way up in the air and doing some crazy slow motion moves, but not necessarily a simulation style. Then we have Volcano Princess, that's June 24th, Cloud, Console, and PC. Moving to June 26th, we have Against the Storm, Cloud, and Console. Warcraft 1 Remastered on PC, Warcraft 2 Remastered, and Warcraft 3 Reforged. All of these just dropping onto PC on June 26th at the same time. Moving to June 30th, we have Call of Duty WW2, console and PC. See these Call of Duty games slowly going in, I guess, here. Interesting cadence, we'll say, on this. Little Nightmares 2, that's cloud, console, and PC to kick off July on the 1st. Then Rise of the Tomb Raider, cloud, console, and PC. That's kind of phased in and out of the service, but if you've never played it, it's a very good Tomb Raider game, I would say there. So not a bad way to close out the month and then start up July. But for me, the big one I'm looking towards right now is Rematch. That's today. Probably be on playing tonight and getting back into the swing of things there after that beta, a couple weeks ago. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Donkey Kong Bonanza. We're less than a month away, and after that direct that happened yesterday, yeah, people are pretty excited for this one, myself included. I did an entire video just going over my thoughts on it because it's quite a bit. It's almost 14 minutes of me discussing it, and there's a lot there to be excited for, and that was a direct that was done well. Not really like the Mario Kart World Direct, but that's a conversation for another day, technically. So, okay, let's talk about the box art, though, for this game, because it has changed. They pulled I guess almost a Thunderbolts thing here to the New Avengers, where they had to hide something on the cover art here because, well, it wasn't revealed until the direct. As an entire character you can see, yeah, it's Pauline. So originally we had the rock that was floating around with Donkey Kong, and that was actually the same way in some of the demos that happened with press and some of the people that went out to the different Nintendo Switch 2 events, as well as in the treehouse. And now you can see Pauline is there. So I think it completes the box art really, really well. Obviously adds an extra character, or just more character, I could say, more personality to the entire design of Donkey Kong in this Bonanza game. And I mean that again, the direct showed off a lot of the stuff Pauline can do. I think it pairs nicely with the brute force of Donkey Kong, and of course adds a bunch of abilities and stuff for DK as well. But just kind of a fun little note there that there was, 20 years in the future, you might have that question of how many cover arts were there for Donkey Kong Bonanza? And you could be like, wait a minute, there were actually two, because one, they showed up with first that had a rock and not Pauline. And before we go to the comment of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, are you picking up Donkey Kong Bonanza? Look at this, 41%. Saying they're getting it ASAP. 15% say maybe later if there's a sale. You never know, towards the end of this year, you could see, Black Friday sales or Cyber Monday, just from retailers, maybe dropping at $10 or something. 9% are just not interested, and then 35% don't have a Switch 2. And that's, of course, going to be a big thing right now, is it is Nintendo's job to put out games that are compelling and interesting to get people to buy a Switch 2. I will say, Donkey Kong Bonanza, I was looking at it before, like, okay, this could be fun. It's kind of looking like one of those system seller games now. And I know Mario Kart World was the clear and obvious choice to launch a system like this with, because it was your best selling game of all of last generation. And if any of us were really in the boardroom making serious decisions about like the money and business side, that's the franchise we'd point to launch a new platform with. Donkey Kong is up there though, and I'm glad it's coming out, just a month and a half after its release. Wish it was sooner though, because after that direct, I can't necessarily predict this just yet, but it might be in that Game of the Year conversation. It's got to come out first, though. We got to see how it turns out, but at least from what they're showing, it's looking really good. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Brick by Brick, who says, as a trucker, either that driver was willing to lose his job or someone set him up inside job. But I don't think they thought this through. I'm sure all of those units will be bricked the minute they go online. Nintendo Ninja's out for blood. I think in this case, it'll be most likely Nintendo kind of just tracking and trying to, I'm sure they have logs of serial numbers for all these systems and where they were in transit to. And yes, that's stuff they can track, I guess, if they go online or if they're sold. And that's through like the retailer. They'll scan the barcode, then scan the serial number, so it's all logged. In this case, though, it's probably not going over the counter. It's probably back alley dealings and stuff there, trading money and the Switch too. But here, though, I am curious, for all the truck drivers out there, is it common? I'm trying to think of the blind spots where someone would like be able to break into your truck and just take the stuff. Because while I was joking about it, I don't think there was ever a Fast and the Furious type heist where they're speeding up on the side of the road and they unlock it without you paying attention, jumping off the hood of a car. Although I guess anything's possible. That's not likely. So I'm trying to think, a truck stop somewhere and they managed to break in. Or maybe it really was an inside job, as many out there are currently floating right now. But let me know where, if you're a trucker, the most likely spot would be for someone to pull something like this off. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you missed yesterday's Newswave, I'll leave it up here on a card. Or maybe you want to hear some of my extended thoughts around what we saw with that Donkey Kong Bananza Direct, I'll leave that right below it. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.